Welcome to How to Build and Use a Success Profile. This is the secret to confidently hiring great staff, and it really is a game changer. Do you worry about taking on the right people, hiring the right staff, making the right recruitment decision? Well, it's understandable as it's expensive and time consuming when you get it wrong. It's also a big pain in the neck. Well, the good news is that you can reduce this risk and get it right most of the time by building a success profile. So imagine being able to make recruitment decisions with very high degrees of confidence. Now here's the situation. For any given environment, some personality types will thrive and the vast majority will struggle to cope. And this is regardless of skills, qualifications or experience. It is purely a function of personality. Now, from your own experience, if you've done any recruitment, you've worked and hired people over the years, then you'll already know this to be true. Each environment demands certain behaviours, and environments vary from one place to another. Now, our personality type, well, it determines our natural preferences, our preferred environments, our preferred response to certain stimuli, our preferred way to behave. These are all dictated by our personality type. So what we're trying to do when we're making a recruitment decision is really put the right piece in the right space, a bit like a jigsaw. And providing we get that right, and that is determined by personality type more than skills or experience or anything else, as long as we get that right, then we know that those people are going to thrive. Let me show you an example. If the situation, the environment, if you like, requires a lot of attention to detail, then it really needs someone who is naturally detailed. Now that's not something that you become, it's not something you improve. You either have a personality type that is naturally good at details or you don't. And it's not something you can develop. We can develop coping mechanisms to, so for instance, I'm not that detailed, so if I want to get the details right, I know I have to check my work 3 times, I have to maybe get somebody else to check it, so it's not something that's beyond us. I can make an extreme effort to try and get the details right and concentrate and check my work, but that's not what we're talking about here. You see, someone who's naturally detailed just gets it right, and they don't really need to check it because it'll pretty much always be right, and it doesn't exhaust them trying to get those details right in the same ways that would exhaust me. It's fundamentally a different playing field. So if you look at this picture here, then what you'll see is this person for natural attention to detail is only scoring 50 out of 100. So they would actually struggle if they were having to do detailed work all the time. If they had to do it now and again, well, that would be okay, it wouldn't be a problem. They'd probably need to check it more often, but if it was an all-day, everyday situation, then not only would they struggle to get those details right all the time, but they would find it exhausting. They would eventually find it quite stressful, perhaps, and they would eventually get sick of it. Or if we take another example, what if the environment is actually fast-paced, where it leaves little time to think and reflect before taking action? Well, if you look at this example here, at 72, this person has no real problem with a fast-paced environment. In fact, they would be fine in that environment. However, again, if they scored, say, less than 50, it's not that they couldn't do it, but they may struggle, and they may even, get stressed because they just don't get enough time to think things through. Now, it's not something that individual can change. All we can do is come up with coping mechanisms to help us. But if the environment really is fast-paced, and then you're always better to appoint someone who naturally prefers a fast-paced environment. And this is really what it all boils down to. It's about natural preferences. You want to have people work with their natural preferences and not have to fight against it. Now, this type of information is not provided to recruiters in the CV or the job application, so it's no wonder that recruitment is such a hit or miss. You're simply not getting the data that you need. There is nothing in a CV that will tell you how naturally detailed a person is or how badly they need time to think, if we just use these two small examples. And saying this is why there's so much conjecture and guesswork when it comes to recruitment. So you're looking at a CV, you're looking at all sorts of other information, and you're trying to guess and conjecture as to, I wonder if this person is detailed. I wonder how detailed they are. Are they more detailed than the last candidate we saw or not? What information are you using to help you make that decision? It's pretty much conjecture. There's nothing else. You just simply do not have data. And this is the difference here. Now, as a recruiter, you're not provided with the information you really need to make these informed decisions. However, with a success profile, you can remove the conjecture and the guesswork and prioritise your candidates with very high levels of confidence. Now, there are two approaches that we take to when we're building a success profile. The first one is historical modelling, and the second is environment modelling, and wherever possible, we would do both. Sometimes it's not possible to do the historical modelling, simply because there aren't enough models. With environment modelling, we identify, with it's not with environment modelling, with the historical modelling, I beg your pardon, we actually identify at least 6 people that are already doing the same job in the same environment very well. These are your models. We then analyse the personality of these models and identify a pattern. This effectively provides us with a psychological profile of your ideal candidate. So essentially what we're saying is, if you can identify half a dozen or more, preferably more, people who already are doing well in the environment, and for whatever reason, it doesn't matter, we don't need to know the why, we just need to know that you go, he's great, she's amazing, I wish they were all like him, I wish they were all like her. You can pick those models, then we can look at for a pattern amongst those models and identify and essentially create this psychological profile of your ideal candidate. We can then summarize all of that into a simple picture and display it on the People Maps map. So this is the People Maps personality map sitting here. So in this example, the success profile is found in the southwest of the map. Now, it must be stressed that even within the southwest, there are still a wide variety of personality types within this region. However, we're at least narrowing things down, significantly narrowing things down. So once you end up with this picture, that allows you to take the first step. You can now compare each candidate's map against your success profile map, as you can see here. So the success profile, again on the left, it's the southwest. And in this particular case, we're saying the candidate's map, this candidate, this one individual, is in the northeast. So clearly, it's nothing like your success profile. It couldn't be more further away from your success profile. So when it comes to creating a prioritised list, this particular candidate isn't really making the first cut. They're not at the top of the list. So I say they're nothing like it, and therefore we can see at a glance, before we read anything, we just need to look at this picture. Now if we look at this example, the candidate is actually a perfect match and would be added to the prioritised shortlist right away. So you might be looking at 20 or 30 applicants, and right away you could probably boil that down to the 5 or 10 or so that are in this southwest region. Now, the rest of the personality report about that candidate would provide all the details about the candidate, including several personality gauges. Now, we've only looked at a couple of pairs of gauges. There's over 150 gauges. So, and each report has their own set of gauges. So the map lets you make your initial prioritization, but the report and the gauges, well, they give you the detail and allow you to filter down further. Each report contains several pairs of personality gauges, so you should give consideration to which 3 gauges, and I do recommend that you narrow it down to, because you might have a half a dozen, you might have a dozen gauges in your report. But if you can even narrow that down to 2 or 3 that you know are really important, that matter most to you and to this specific situation, then this will enable you to prioritize further. So you already have a whole bunch of people who have got the right map. Now you can look at their gauges and see who is scoring highest for the things that you care about most. And again, you could find some discrepancies there, and there will be some people that do much better than others, even within your initial filter. So now that you actually have a prioritized list, you can actually spend more time with people who are more and most likely to actually succeed in the environment. Typically with recruitment, your time is divided across everybody, so you spend as much time with someone who's not a hope of ever coping in that environment, but that takes away from time you could spend with someone who has a really good chance in that environment, but you want to spend more time with those people and less time with the others. So use the detailed report to interview them and ask the relevant questions provided. Now, each report includes personality-centric questions that will really get the right conversations flowing. So these questions will actually get those candidates to open up and willingly share important information with you. And that's the key here. The report and the success profile really gets you a long way down the road, but the interview conversation that you actually have with those smaller number of selected, prioritized candidates is where the real magic can happen. So if you want to make confident selection decisions, identifying candidates who will not only cope but thrive in your specific environment, your situation, then book a PeopleMap Success Profile today. What you would need to do, if you're able to conduct the historical modelling, if you've got some people who already do the job well, for instance, then all you'll actually need to do is get your models, those half a dozen or so people, to complete the personality questionnaire. And I say you need about 6 models. PeopleMaps will also provide you with a form to complete, an online form, as regards the environment modelling. So we'll collect both those pieces of information, and then everything else is left to PeopleMaps. Once you provide that basic information, we'll conduct the analysis for you and provide you with your success profile so that you can confidently hire the very best candidates. So go ahead and order your success profile today.